Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Griffin. Just want to remind you guys that our Listener League iTunes Review Challenge is now live. If you want to join us for our 2017 Listener League, all you have to do is subscribe on iTunes and give us a rating, give us a review, and you'll be in the runnings to be selected to be in our Listener League. Remember, at the end of the review, just make sure you leave us an email, a Twitter name, something so we can reach you if you do win. And if you want to go the extra mile, you can send us an extra message via email, via Twitter, at the FF Fanatics, thefantasyfootballfanatics@gmail.com. Tell us that you have submitted and what format you want the league to be, draft format, things of that nature. So, with that being said, everybody, enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Fantasy Football Fanatics podcast with your hosts Griffin Palmer, CJ Hickman, Jason Cabrera, and Ryan Mitchell.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. It is Friday, June 9th. This is the Fantasy Football Fanatics podcast. As always, I'm your host, Griffin Palmer, joined over the phone by my co-analysts, CJ the Hitman Hickman and Jason Cabrera. What is up, guys?
Yo.
Jason, what's up, man?
Going?
Not too much. You guys as excited about that Listener League as I am?
Oh yeah, this will be my first year doing it, so
that's
true.
Fun. You weren't in the Listener League last year, so it was a lot of fun.
I was not.
All this talk of course, now draft. We did a mock draft, of course. We're reviewing the mock draft today and talking about upcoming drafts and trying to get leagues together. I'm ready for fantasy football, but it's still so far away. We got 2 months until preseason even, so we'll get there. As always, we do have an amazing show for you guys today. Today we're going to be, as we mentioned, reviewing our mock draft from last week. It was a full-point PPR mock, and we're going to be bringing you, of course, all the top headlines from around the league as well. Warm-up question ensued. So first, we have to mention, please make sure you guys subscribe to the show, iTunes, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, YouTube, the works. We are on Twitter at the FF Fanatics, on Facebook at facebook.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics. We are on YouTube. You can reach us email. Really just look anywhere under the Fantasy Football Fanatics. You'll probably find us. If you guys want to go the extra mile and truly support the show, head over to patreon.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics. You can sign up there, get yourself some cool exclusive perks, including bonus episodes every single week. But we're going to start with our warm-up question of the day, which is simply, who could be a late-round quarterback to break out and be a top fantasy quarterback in 2017? Now, this is obviously like Blake Bortles was in 2015, a double-digit round quarterback, in some cases undrafted, finished as a high-end number one, as Matt Ryan last year, in a lot of cases undrafted, finished as a high-end number one fantasy quarterback. So, guys, who wants to start us off here?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think everybody knows. I think everybody knows who I'm gonna talk about. I think this is gonna be a bounce back year for Carson Palmer. Finished third in 2015 with a healthy receiving core and a decent line play. Had bad offensive line play last year. Lots of injuries. Everybody knows the story about the receivers going down. John Brown with his sickle cell and the cyst in his back, and Michael Floyd just losing his mind or whatever happened to him. This year, I think that, again, like I said, I think we're going to have a little bit of a bounce back. We're going to see a healthy John Brown, which should scare everyone in the NFC West. They're pretty happy with what they've got in a young rookie, Chad Williams. And, of course, Carson's nice and healthy. And, of course, you got David Johnson. So, overall, I think we're going to see Carson Palmer look more like the 2015 version of himself. And I forgot to mention, the offensive line has had some changes, and it looks much stronger than it did last year.
I agree.
I'm gonna go with Carson Wentz. That's my guy, and I got to stick to that narrative because I got that bet with Jason at the end of the season. So
So he has to pick Carson Wentz.
Yeah, I gotta do that. So, but I like the talent that they brought around him. Alshon Jeffrey, I see this being a bounce back year for him too. He has a legit quarterback to throw him the ball. He has a nice supporting cast there with him. I just basically just like everything that's going on. Second year in the system, you look at the trends of quarterbacks going into their second year when they actually put weapons around them and protect them and groom the talent that's around them as well. They tend to do well. So I like the trends. I like what I'm seeing from Philly, and I like basically Carson Wentz this year, man.
All right. 2 homer picks from you guys. I like it. All right.
There was a lot of trash that was left out there that I just can't get behind.
Fair enough. Mine is simply Eli Manning. Now, to some,
that's one of them.
Some people are saying, duh. Others are saying, what? He's a very polarizing figure. But bottom line, this is a guy who has thrown for almost at least 4,000 yards almost every single year since 2009. He had 2 years where he missed it by just a couple yards. Also, this is a guy who almost always throws around 30 touchdowns. Obviously, last year was a down year. He barely threw for 4,000 yards. He threw for 26 touchdowns, which is not obviously what you like to see. However, they have upgraded the offensive line, not substantially, but they brought in a couple pieces. And, of course, they have added weapons to that offense. If Eli Manning does not succeed this year, then it's safe to say that he is on the decline, but I'm not ready to believe it yet. I mean, they brought in Brandon Marshall, obviously another huge weapon to go opposite of Odell Beckham Jr. Sterling Shepard, I expect to continue to develop in his second year, also a very good red zone threat. Also drafting Evan Ingram, who is a very speedy pass-catching tight end, so he has weapons galore. I think that Eli Manning is primed just to have a bounce-back season. I think that if all goes according to plan, we all know Ben McAdoo, his offense is polarizing to some, but most people agree that he is a very good offensive-minded quarterback, and he's able to put up a lot of fantasy production. We've seen it in the past. Eli Manning is in a position where if he plays up to his potential, he could be looking at a very high-standing Fantasy 1 finish at the end of 2017. So I like the opportunity for Eli Manning, especially considering you can get him in the double-digit rounds. This is why I wait on quarterback. So, all right, with that, let's go ahead and move on to our top headlines from around the league. We'll start at the running back position, where DeMarco Murray was spotted with his hand in a cast yesterday. Apparently, he had a procedure done. Not sure what the specifics are as of yet. The Tennessee Titans head coach Mike Mularkey said that he expects Murray to be back in time for training camp. Does this downgrade DeMarco Murray for you guys?
No, it's way too early for that.
Jason?
Yeah. No, I give it some time.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's obviously way too early. It's the beginning of June, and they're saying he'll be back in camp. That's one thing. I know a lot of people are reporting out there that, Derrick Henry, he's going to get more reps, more time to get situated in the offense. I think it is basically what it is at this point. So it's something to keep an eye on, but unless this is something that's going to linger for DeMarco Murray, and again, we don't know the specifics as of yet, I mean, it's really hard to say. So obviously, when we know more, we will report back. Also, a bit of news coming from the hype train, which is basically all the fluff that's going on this time of year. New Orleans Saints players have been, quote, gushing over Adrian Peterson's running ability during OTAs and are, quote, marveling over his burst and stride length. So, guys, is this, obviously this is what you want to hear, but are you buying into this at all?
No, I look at it as they're just not used to seeing the actual running back running their offense. You know what I'm saying? So, of course, they're going to be, just scar days of what's going on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, as we've mentioned, this is the best running back, in the last decade. They should be gushing and marveling over this guy. I mean, he's been doing it better than anyone else for longer than anyone else. So, yeah, I'm not shocked by this at all, and I'm not shocked on them trying to sell this to their fan base by saying, "Oh my God, he's the greatest ever," and look at he's in the best shape of his life, like normal.
Yeah. I mean, it's also one of those things, like, no matter how good he's looking, as of right now, it is a very cluttered backfield. So, I mean, he could be looking great, but Mark Ingram's still there, and, I mean, obviously they drafted the rookie, so it's something. It's good to hear. You want to hear Adrian Peterson's looking like Adrian Peterson of old, but this is also that time of year where everything's positive. So, as per basically everything, we'll see in training camp. Let's move on to the wide receiver position, where the New York Jets have released wide receiver Eric Decker. This happened on Tuesday following our show's recording, so we didn't get it in. But, guys, Eric Decker, now a free agent. I think it's safe to say that the Jets are officially doing everything in their power to tank this year. What are your thoughts?
Scam for Sam.
They are absolutely scamming for Sam.
I like it though. I like it. This is a good play by them. I mean, one, if you're a Jets fan, I mean, you see this organization, you need a quarterback. I mean, look, all the other positions you can draft, but you need a franchise quarterback to get this ship right, and that's just something that they just don't have right now. Now, you've drafted quarterbacks basically every other year. You thought Christian Hackenberg was it. You thought Bryce Petty was it. You even thought Mark Sanchez was it, and he was cool for a time. But it's like, and then you got Geno Smith. It just hasn't hit yet as far as someone sticking and then having that moxie and that poise to be that starter. They just haven't had that yet. So I guess they see it in the class that's coming up. So I mean, I think this is a great organization move and even a classy move even to give Eric Decker so he doesn't have to suffer and go through this garbage that's about to happen. Go and find you another team you can be able to have a good season this year.
You think he was celebrating good times when he got the
Oh,
news?
absolutely. He was probably kissing their feet out the door saying thank you.
Not
so
having
much.
to waste a season on an 0-16 team as it's looking like they're doing everything in their power to become this year.
That's exactly what's going to happen.
It's pretty bad. So tell me, guys. Now, obviously, there are two big name wide receivers that are now free agents this late in the game. Obviously, Jeremy Maclin, Eric Decker. We've heard about all the points, which actually getting into our next bit of news. Jeremy Maclin has left both Buffalo and Baltimore without a contract to this point. Most sources are saying that it's come down to contract negotiations and agreements. They can't agree on an amount. At least that was the news coming out of Buffalo. Baltimore initial reports seem to be suggesting the same thing. So, obviously the main places that we've really been hearing, at least on the surface, are Buffalo, Baltimore. We've heard some links to Arizona, a couple other places. Where do you guys think the ideal landing spots for fantasy purposes are for these players? Obviously, Jeremy Maclin a little bit more of the big play receiver. Eric Decker more of the possession, contested catch receiver. What are you guys' thoughts here?
Actually, I wouldn't mind seeing Decker go to Baltimore.
Yes, he would be my preference as well because we already have two speedy big play guys.
Exactly. I mean, and Decker is a proven commodity. He's somebody that we know can move the ball. He's somebody who's played for a bad offense and still been productive. And you put him in an offense that's not that bad. It's pretty decent. Good quarterback, big arm. I think he would definitely give you guys a dimension that you're missing.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree with Jason. I think, and especially you got a talent in Mike Wallace there. He plays better. When he has another receiver there that he can be able to, not take the brunt of the coverage. So you got the other piece there. He's a great number 2, and I think that will work. Jeremy Maclin, I really see him going to the Bills and actually excelling there. I mean, we're going to get to it a little bit, respecting why it hasn't happened, but I see it happen there. He has a mobile quarterback. He does well with mobile quarterbacks. They got other pieces there, so he's not going to be the main guy, even though he doesn't have a problem being that guy. His numbers show that. The only thing about him that, you question is just his health concerns. I mean, he has a trend of being hurt and missing a lot of time. So, if that can cease and he can be able to put together a couple of years of him being healthy, I think his first year, if he goes to the Bills, I think that would be a good play for him, and I think it'll be a good play for fantasy as well.
I mean, yeah, I agree. I think Jeremy Maclin would, like we already said, as far as in Baltimore, it would be just an addition and a bit of strength. You can't ever have enough big play receivers, so that's one thing. But I think that as a whole, they're definitely looking for something more of Eric Decker's build. Now, we've seen in the past, Eric Decker is not necessarily able to excel as the number 1. He's really good as like a 1A or a number 2. In Baltimore, I'm not sure. I would imagine he would draw number 1 coverage, even though he's not the big play. He would be that big receiver. Obviously, he's 6'3". I think people tend to think he's smaller than he is. 6'3", 214. He is 30 years old, but I mean, he has almost every season since he really broke out in 2012, he has played for around, he's played for 1,000 yards minimum every single season except for 2014 where he was almost at 1,000. And then obviously last year he got hurt really early into the season. I do like that fit as well. I'd be happy to see him in Baltimore filling that Steve Smith role. That role is pretty much carved out, especially with Dennis Pitta going down. That's a lot of catches. That's 350 some receptions from last year or targets rather from last year that need to go somewhere, and they need that possession move the chains guy. Jeremy Maclin, I do actually really like for Buffalo as well. I could see him, that big play potential, especially we've heard some news that John Brown had a hamstring injury, so they could be looking to bring him in maybe in Arizona. He's also been linked to, and I know we say no, but I'm saying these are reports that I've been hearing. He's been linked also to the Eagles as well. I'm not sure how that would play out with all the
I mean,
additions you guys have already made this year,
yeah,
besides
it's
the fact
pretty
he's
crowded.
an ex-Eagle. What are your thoughts there, CJ? I mean, that's your team.
Well, I mean, I love him, and it would help out because I do have a jersey of his, so I don't have to I don't have to get another jersey. I can
What if he doesn't get his
just
number
dust the
back?
dirt,
Well, there's
dust
a
the
good
dust
reason.
off it. You know what I mean? But
Jeremy,
put that on.
CJ has your jersey already. Just go
Yeah.
go ahead and go to the Eagles.
Go back
Go on
to
and come
Philly.
back, man. I got the jersey ready. But it you know what I mean? I would love it, but it just really doesn't make any sense right now, especially with the talent that they've already bringing in there. The only other person I've been listening to sports radio, they said, well, basically he'd be like a Torrey Smith. Well, I mean, the money that they're paying Torrey Smith, you really don't want to bring in another sizable contract because Jeremy Maclin's he's gonna want good money to be able to come in there. Now, he's probably looking for 6 million plus when he's probably gonna have to take maybe like a five million a year kind of salary. You know what I mean? So I don't think the Eagles they could make the room, but I don't really see them doing that because of the stuff that they have going on for next season for players that they want to re-sign. So it's just too crowded, and it just doesn't really make any sense, especially what they saying that they want to be able to do as far as going forward with the organization.
Well,
Go
ahead, Jason.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, if I'm Dallas, I might think about trying to make a shot, take a shot at Jeremy Maclin.
That could be a play too. I don't know if
Yeah,
they have
'cause, I
enough
mean,
money though.
That's the problem. Is the question is, would they have enough money for it? I mean, they've got Des Bryant, who's a red zone threat, and then you've got those smaller, speedy receivers that are going to be more slot guys. Maclin kind of, like I said with Derek Decker, kind of gives them that big play ability that they don't really have outside of Des Bryant, who can make big plays, but is more of a red zone weapon.
I mean, the Cowboys, they have space. They're ranked in the middle of the league right now, about 15th with available cap space. They could make that move. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if. I do like that fit, though. There have not been any links that I've heard linking him there. The Eagles have the second least cap space, so I just don't see it happening unless he takes a super cap friendly deal. Baltimore is down there pretty low as well, though. We did just release Dennis Pitta to free up some cap space, so that's going to give us the option to be a little bit more flexible. The Bills have considerably more cap space, so I could see it playing out well there. Another team that has been linked to them, to Jeremy Maclin as well, the Cleveland Browns, which obviously we all know have a ton of cap space. Do you guys like that? You think that's a good landing spot?
Yeah. I think that's it gives them a dimension they kind of need. That team on defense looks fantastic. They're adding pieces. They're getting better. On offense, they do need, because they got some question marks at the receiver position. We don't know, what's going to go on with certain members of their team. Jeremy Maclin gives them some veteran leadership and that big playability.
Yeah. What about obviously the team with the most cap space? Would you guys like to see him end up in San Francisco, where there'd be a lot of targets? I know you guys aren't high on the quarterback situation there, but I mean, come on, Kyle Shanahan's there. He makes things work.
Yeah, I mean, he'd be a nice little toy for Shanahan to play with, but the problem is he doesn't have anybody driving the ship.
You don't have a quarterback.
Yeah.
You
guys are such haters.
Same thing with Cleveland, though.
How are we haters? Give me some haters. You seen Brian Hoyer? You seen him? What are you talking about? I'm a hater.
I'm just
he
saying,
played for my team, Griffin.
Kyle, I'm just saying, Kyle Shanahan, he's shown that he has been able to make a lot happen with a lot less. No, actually, I can't really say a lot less.
He is a coach. He is a coach, not a miracle worker. All right?
Some would beg to differ.
Kirk Cousins, Matt Ryan. Are you telling me that Brian Hoyer is on their level?
No, I wouldn't even remotely say that.
So why are you trying to bring talent to an organization that is dead at quarterback position?
I'm saying solely on volume alone, he could have some production for fantasy. I'm talking about, what's the best fit for fantasy here? Obviously, for his career, the best option would be him to go to a high-powered offense. But
fantasy, definitely not. Definitely not San Francisco.
All right, well, I mean, again, a little bit of hate there, but I get it. I can't disagree.
More like understanding of reality.
I don't understand this.
That's fair. All right, well, let's move on. Let's see. Per ESPN's Adam Schefter, sources, the reason Odell Beckham Jr. has not been present at OTAs is because of his desire for a new deal. What are you guys' thoughts on Odell Beckham Jr.? I mean, they're optional at this point, so it's not like he's holding out. But what are your thoughts on him not showing up to OTAs?
Well, I think it's partially a deal, but another thing, he's hanging with his new girlfriend, man. So I mean, hey, if I don't have to be there until the mandatory part, I'm not showing up.
Well, for me, he's one of the leaders of this team. As far as I mean, he's their superstar. He's their weapon.
Yeah,
And it does not bode well for the organization that their superstar, their weapon, doesn't show up to the OTAs. And yeah, they're voluntary, but if you're the superstar on that team, if you're the number one receiver, you need to get your butt to OTAs. I mean, you got all the young kids are there. The coaches are there. Everybody's there. Get the OTAs, man. Be with your team. You want a new deal, great. Tell them you want a new deal, but still get your butt out on that field.
I mean, he's set to make about $3 million this year, 3.3, and next year with the fifth-year option, he'll make about $8.5 million. So it's not like it's bad. He's hitting that point of his contract where he's starting to make a little bit more. But I mean, look, I get it. He's been one of the top fantasy receivers since he really came into the league in his rookie year and got healthy. So I get it.
That guy in that offense, that dude.
He has been the guy.
Yeah.
There's no denying that. So I get it, but I think there's better ways to go about things. But I mean, if this is the way he thinks it's going to get done, again, it's not like he's holding out of training camp. So we'll see. The offseason is still young. I'm not holding it against him. I'll put it that way. Let's see.
Right.
Atlanta's Falcons' new offensive coordinator Steve Sarkisian says he wants to utilize Julio Jones more often in the red zone. So guys, thoughts on this?
Coach beat. I mean that'd be nice, but again, don't mess with the offense, Sarkisian. Leave it alone. They're the best offense in the league right now. Leave it alone. Let it run. If Matt Ryan doesn't want to throw the ball to Julio Jones in the red zone, that's fine. Do what you want, Matt. So I think this is just Sarkisian kind of getting his name out there, just kind of letting them know that he's thinking and coming up with new ways to use their big superstar. I don't think that we're going to see a big change in the way they utilize Julio Jones.
I think he was coming up before whenever he did this, interview, that he was like, what a couple hot takes I can be able to say that really get people's attention.
What'll get people talking?
More touches in the red zone. Yeah, that's the one. That's top it.
Yeah,
Listen, of course, that's going to be a thing. I mean, look, Julio Jones is going to be the best wide receiver in that offense. Of course, they're going to get the ball to the number one guy. Now, listen, if you want to focus on it more, I hope that you don't, because defenses are going to shut that down. Give it to the open man. Just like Jason says, don't really mess with this. There's no real tinkering you need to do. They got enough talent there. Just let the plays run, and then you go and just go with it, man. You don't need to do a lot of stuff. Don't do that.
Well, bottom line, he's going to tinker. He's a new offensive coordinator. He wants to put his stamp on the offense. You see this happen every single time anything changes hands. They say, oh, we're going to keep it the same, but I'm going to change these couple things. It always happens. And to be fair, this is something that has always been a little lacking for Julio Jones. He's always been a big yardage guy, but he's never been super high on the touchdowns. I mean, over his career, rookie year, 8, then 10, his career high, then 2, then 6, then 8, then 6. So, I mean, he is at double digits once in his career, and he's been, a top fantasy wide receiver, though inconsistent week to week. He gives you those big boom-bust weeks. It's the yardage that usually gets him there. So if he can get another 2 or 3 touchdowns, I'm all about it. But, I mean, we'll see how it all works out. He's definitely the best receiver on the team. He should be being used more. He's 6'3", crazy wingspan, great hands. I don't know why he's not used more in the red zone. I know they use him as a diversion more times than not, but there's no reason not to maybe try and get him the ball more.
Well, I'm going to say, I mean, you know they want to, because of the relationship with him and Matt Ryan, with the chemistry you see on the field. The biggest thing that everybody knows that we see is that's just health. He hasn't been healthy to be able to get a bunch of touchdowns. Just like you said, his career high was 10. That was good. And then you see you see how it's going down ever since then. It's just because of health. So it's not like they're not trying. If the man's not on the field, of course he's not going to get the red zone touches because he's hurt.
All true. But
if he stays healthy, and if Austin Hooper can take a step forward, they're going to have some nice red zone targets, this coming year. So they could end up scoring even more touchdowns, which is boggles the mind.
You beat me to it. I was just about to talk about Austin Hooper. But yeah, I think Austin Hooper, he got his feet wet last year. He flashed a little bit. Again, rookie tight ends generally don't do anything. O.J. Howard, that's what I've been saying. But we'll see. But look.
I had to throw that in there.
I have to. But it's...
I want him to, Jason, because as soon as O.J. Howard breaks out, him and all the other trolls are just going to have to suck.
It's not going to happen. Look, the guy.
Okay. Thank you, Nostradamus.
He didn't score double-digit touchdowns his entire time in college. What makes you think that's going to be
We
a
already
jump?
discussed. If you'd have read my article, which apparently you didn't, we already discussed why that was a thing in Alabama, because they didn't know how to use him properly.
I know, but bottom line, we have to see it first. And rookie tight end. But we're not going down that rabbit hole right now. Austin Hooper, I expect to take maybe a step forward. They have all the other wide receivers, obviously, on the team. They've got the running game, so the ball is going to be spread out. I mean, it's nice to think that, Julio Jones, who we're all going to be drafting in the first round, is able to get you, obviously, an even higher ceiling, but, remains to be seen. We'll see how it plays out. We're going to move on, though. We tweeted this out. First round rookie wide receiver Mike Williams suffered a, quote, mild disc herniation. He is expected to be back in time for training camp. Now, by most reports, reading doctors' reports, things of that nature, this has been linked to the fractured neck that he suffered in 2015 in college when he collided with the goalpost on his touchdown catch, his first game of that season. Apparently, mild to moderate disc herniations are pretty normal from that injury. It's one of those things that they have to worry more about the nerve and pain and things of that nature. So they're going to monitor it. They expect him to be back for camp. But honestly, hearing this news, I'm moving him down because I don't like the injury. I don't like the fact that it's supposed to be a normal thing, that this is supposed to flare up, and the fact that he's missing even more opportunities to try and build that rapport with going to cut me off, Phillip Rivers there. With all the other weapons that they already have there, it's just one of those things. It's going to take him time to work into that offense. And, I mean, if he's not there to work in during the offseason and he starts late in training camp, I have to imagine he's going to be one of those guys that he might be a second half of the season type explosion, but I'm definitely not going to like him rather, for early in the season. So I've actually downgraded him already in my rankings. What were you going to say, Jason?
I was going to say, isn't this also his second injury? Didn't he get hurt? Didn't he get hurt last week or like a couple weeks ago?
If he did, I don't remember what it was. So
I'm pretty sure we reported.
Didn't you say something about a back injury? That's why they sit him out for the rest of the OTAs.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like that's setting a warning light off in my head, because that's the second injury that we've heard from this kid. And the only thing he's done in the NFL is off-season training, which is, pretty much soccer camp at this point. So the fact he's getting hurt already, and he's already had 2 back disc-type injuries, that is kind of scary, especially for this first year. So, yeah, I agree with you. I'm downgrading him big time.
Yeah, I'm trying to look up his injury history now. It's not wanting to come up because it's not the regular season. A lot of sites aren't working. Great. All right, whatever. We'll move on. Green Bay.
Here it is. Mike Williams, get behind it, charges OTAs due to a back injury. That was 2 days ago.
Go. All right. That I think is tied in with this herniation. But, yeah, regardless. Green Bay Packers head coach Mike McCarthy said he wants to get Randall Cobb more touches this season. Great news for Randall Cobb truthers out there, like myself. But if this is true, obviously, look, we've said extensively that Aaron Rodgers and that offense, if they can support that many wide receivers and make them all fantasy relevant, I mean, that's great. I think that they're one of the few teams that could, but I have to imagine this is just going to take away from Devontae Adams. Though they play very different roles, the volume has to go somewhere. Obviously, Martellus Bennett there now. I don't know. What's your guys' take on this? Because I would love to see Randall Cobb return back to a high-end fantasy wide receiver 2, maybe low-end fantasy 1. I don't think we'll ever see that again unless there are injuries ahead of him. But I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts?
I mean, he was a guy. The injuries hit him. The injuries hit him last year. But outside of that, he was still a guy there that Aaron Rodgers was looking for. Devontae Adams, he had his times, and we talked about him. He had his moments. Now, if he can be able to take his game to the next level, then I'll say that I think this is just, just coach talk, really. Because, the talent's going to rise, and you got to be able to get the ball to the talent that's there. And you got Martellus Bennett going to be there. too, so that's another option that he can be able to throw the ball to. So I don't know. And then they got Ty Montgomery, and then the rookie running back behind him. So there's options there. It's hard for me to believe that he's going to get more than what he's had before with all the additions that they had there now.
I mean, we'll see. Jason, you have any thoughts, or want to move on?
Now move on.
All right. And last thing we already kind of mentioned in passing, but John Brown did tweak his hamstring in practice, so that is something to monitor. Obviously, he had a lot of lower body leg injuries going into the season, or through the season rather, last year on top of the sickle cell trait. So something to watch. It's obviously not something you were hoping to hear. We're hoping to hear him stay healthy throughout the offseason. And it's early on, but these things, soft tissue injuries, we talked about this extensively last season, they tend to linger. So hopefully he can get right before training camp. We shall see. And last bit of news, moving on to tight end news. Baltimore has released, we also kind of mentioned this before, Baltimore Ravens have released tight end Dennis Pitta. He officially did re-dislocate his hip. His career is most likely over. So I'm very sad. I'm a sad panda right now.
That's tough, man.
It's tough. Now, this is also kind of one of those things where it's the Ravens doing right by Pitta. They signed it. They released him with an injury designation, so it's not like he's retired or he, has to, do anything where he's gonna have to pay back money. It's just them cutting ties with him. He's gonna get his guaranteed money, and they're both sides are gonna move on. So a little bit more of a cap hit for Baltimore, but I think they're doing right by a guy who was instrumental in our Super Bowl run, catching a touchdown in the Super Bowl as well. Joe Flacco's favorite target, and he's. It's a sad day. He's going to be missed. Obviously, he led the league last year in receptions and set personal bests in receptions and yardage. So Dennis Pitta.
That's a good play by you guys as Baltimore to be able to do that. So not a lot of organizations would do that. So that's a good play.
I agree. I'm happy we did it. I'm just sad to see him go. So with that, we're gonna pick up the pace. We're gonna get No, I'm not playing sad music. We're moving on.
You sure?
I don't want to dwell on it anymore. I've already cried a lot in my in the closet, tears running down my face, whatever. We're moving on.
Want to put some Creed on? Arms wide open.
Who's to say I haven't done that already? Wow. Anyway,
shut
up, CJ. We're moving on to the topic of the day, which is we're reviewing our PPR mock draft that we did on Tuesday. Now, without running back to Tuesday, you guys, let me put it this way. Do you guys want to run down the team?
That's like, you okay, guy?
I short-circuited a little bit.
Yeah, I was going to say.
All right.
We can run down the team if you want to.
All right. Well, please make sure you go back and you listen to that show because you get to hear a lot of our narrative, our thought process, our debates, the surrounding players that we made the decisions to take, who we took, when we took them. But our starting team was Phillip Rivers at quarterback. We got Le'Veon Bell and Isaiah Crowell at running back. Our wide receivers were Doug Baldwin, Allen Robinson. We got Jesse James as our tight end, which I still think we should have gone elsewhere, but that's neither here nor there. We got Justin Tucker as our kicker, and we got the Baltimore Ravens as our defense. And then, obviously, plenty of players. Oh, yeah, that's duh. We had Tyreek Hill in our flex. I'm dumb. Okay. Actually, I can run down the rest, too.
You can run the bench, right?
I was just getting ready to do that. We had on a bench, we had Amir Abdullah, Frank Gore, Jamal Williams, who we expect to eventually get the starting job as the running back in Green Bay. And then at wide receiver, we had Corey Davis, we had Jordan Matthews, we had Adam Thielen. So, guys, now that we've recapped the team and we've gone back, we've studied the tape, we've looked at the draft results, we've looked at where people were taking, the trends, the runs. We're going to be talking about some things that stood out to us. I guess I can go first. And one thing that has caught my eye, which is kind of amazing over the course of the last couple weeks, Rob Gronkowski making a resurgence. He was consistently, for the last couple months, a third-round option, and he is now, and this is not just in PPR, which this was a PPR league, in standard leagues as well, he has moved his way concretely back up into the second round, seems to be trending his way back up into the first, where he has been for the last, I don't even remember how many years. So, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think Gronk is deserving of this? Do you think there's too many mouths to feed in New England? He's not going to be able to return on that value? Or you just think Gronk is Gronk, he's going to smash, he's going to be worth that investment? Which to me, he never has been. I mean, to some, I mean, I just don't like tight ends in the first round. I think you're losing out there. But that's me. What are your thoughts, guys?
Oh, not the first round for sure, but is he? Would I take him in the second round? No. And the only reason I wouldn't take him in the second round is because he gets hurt. He's going to get hurt. When he plays, he's going to win you weeks. He's going to be fantastic. He's amazing. Gronk will smash, but he will get hurt. And when he gets hurt, he's not going to return that investment for you anymore. So a second round pick for half the season is not good. You know, you need that pick. I'm the kind of guy that I like my first 3 picks to be guys that I know are going to be able to make it through the season. You know, and I mean, you know, with Gronk, that doesn't happen. You know, he never makes it through the season. So I would take him in the third. I would not take him in the second.
It just risk injury mitigation right there. So I get that.
Yeah.
CJ, what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, you know what Gronk does in that offense. You know that he's Brady's target. You gotta like, and if you've been paying attention to the reports out of New England camp, you gotta like the fact that, you know, they're saying he's healthy, he looks better, he looks like his old self, you know, old productive self. All that stuff is great, and that's stuff that you want to hear. And I can see why, you know, consensus people start to have him back now, rise back up into the second round. Now, me personally, would I draft him in the second round? Absolutely not. I mean, I agree with Jason. You know, I look for guys that I know that are going to be there. You can't take a knock on him being productive because you know that's what he's going to do. But just to be able to be the longevity to be able to do the whole season, so I can be able to count on those points. I can't say that yet with Gronk because I've seen him the last couple of years. He's been hurt, missing games, and that's been hurting fantasy owners that have had him. So if I can get him in the third round, fourth, I know he ain't gonna be there in the fourth, but even in the third, that's a stretch for me. If I can get him there, I'll be good.
It's one of those things where he's been, like I said, he's been going in the third. I really liked his value in the third. We've done, I don't remember if it was our last mock draft or the one before that. We actually took Gronk in the third round because we were kind of late in the third, and I didn't mind the way our team worked out. And look, I have him statted out. The way I have him statted, I still have him missing 3 games. He hasn't played a full season since his sophomore campaign in 2011. So that's kind of concerning right there. But in the third round, I like that value. Playing about 13 games, he still stats out as the number 1 tight end for me, and that's why in our consensus rankings, when we were talking about, I have him as my tight end 1. However, why would I spend a second, third round pick on this guy when, at least in my statting, I have Jimmy Graham kind of right on his heels right now, which I have to tweak his stats a little bit because I think I might be a little bit too high on Jimmy Graham right now. But based on the stats and the trends, I have him finishing not too far behind him, and he's somebody who, as of today, I could get in the 6th round, a couple of rounds later. So it's just one of those things where the return on value, it's hard to get from the tight end, especially a guy who you know is going to miss time. And yes, he is a dominant force, but there are just so many mouths to feed. I still think he's the focal point of the offense, but I have to imagine that his targets and touches go down. So I don't know. It's one of those things. I look. Gronk is the undisputed king of the tight end position. It's just his asking price is too high for me, so I don't think he's going to be on very many of my teams this year, especially as he's now working his way back up the ranks, seemingly to project closer to the first round with every passing week. So that was one thing that stood out to me. Who wants to go next?
No, excuse me. I'll go next, man. Mine is when we looked at our draft, man, and I looked around. I looked in the 6th round, man. I see Willie Snead there. And I know we talked about at length about Brandon Cooks moving on and going to New England and how we like Michael Thomas. Another guy that I really like in that offense, too, is Willie Snead. I mean, you look at his stats before Michael Thomas got there, you know, he was having a good rapport with Drew Brees. He had a little injuries going on last year, but I think he is poised, and I like that he can be a guy for you, you know, as your second or even your third wide receiver if you want to put him in the flex. I think that he's going to be very productive and he's going to get you a lot of good points this upcoming season.
Jason?
Well, Willie Snead, his stats have all been kind of the same for the first 2 years there. 3 touchdowns the first year, 4 touchdowns the second year, 984 yards the first year, 895 the second year, so he went down almost 100 yards. However, they did lose Brandon Cooks, and they brought in Ted Ginn Jr., but he's not on the same level as Brandon Cooks in my mind. So with Cooks gone, you could see Willie Snead take an uptick in his production, get a few more targets going his direction. So I do like him as a possible flex or maybe even third receiver.
So let me ask you, I agree. I really like the opportunity for Willie Snead to kind of break out in this, which would be, of course, his third year.
Third year, yep.
It's that magical third year. The volume should go up because there's targets that have left with Brandon Cooks. As we said, we think 10 Kid Jr. is going to fill that role, but I don't think he is, like you said, Jason, I don't think he's the same caliber of player. I don't think he's going to fill that role perfectly. Those targets have to go somewhere. Willie Snead, Look, he flashed in his rookie year. He started off strong last year, but injuries and obviously the emergence of Michael Thomas kind of took those targets away from him. He went from being an outside receiver into the slot where he was not able to thrive quite as much. I really do like Willie Snead this year. And would you say that the 6th round where he went in this mock draft was good value for him?
I mean, I like it. I'd see, especially, and I was looking around, I was like, wow, Willie Snead the 6th. I see what everybody else that's going on around that time. That's when we picked up Amir Abdullah in our draft. But I look at the rest, Kyle Rudolph, James Crowder, Martavis Bryant, another good pick. And then you got Brandon Marshall and Tyler Eifert. So I think that's good value there, especially if you're thinking that he's going to be a breakout, for your flex or even a number 3.
Well, the exciting thing is that his actual average draft position, for both standard and PPR, is in the 7th round. So, I mean, if you really want him, maybe scoop him up in the 6th, or you might be able to save, if you're early in the 7th round, you might be able to wait 1 round more, get extra value, still pick him up. I mean, he has a very high ceiling on that team with the opportunity around him. So, Willie Snead, definitely a guy who we've been watching, and now that we're seeing where he's going, somebody we can maybe target in our drafts. I like that. Jason, what stood out to you?
Well, one thing that stood out to me was still not a lot of love for Isaiah Crowell. He went as the 20th running back off the board at the bottom of the 4th round. Last year, he ended as the 14th running back, and as we've mentioned several times, the team's gotten better. The offensive line specifically has gotten better. So I expect to see Isaiah Crowell take another step, and we've also mentioned his stats have risen dramatically every year. So I definitely think he's going to end up being a running back 1 this year. So I think if he's there in the 4th round, you're going to want to grab that guy.
Yeah,
I agree.
You said he was the 20th running back off the board?
I believe so. Let me double check it. I'm looking at the wrong page. There we go. Let's see.
I only bring it up because he's currently going in PPR drafts as the 14th running back off the board, as the 11th pick in the 3rd round. So we got some good value for him there.
Yeah, we got a great value then for him. Yes, he was the 20th running back off the board. We took him in the bottom of the 4th round.
Right, and so we got great return on value there, and we've talked about the offensive line has been buffed up. They have seemingly made a commitment to him. All of his stats have increased every single year, except for obviously he scored 8 touchdowns in his rookie year. That was the real standout stat for him then. But his targets and receptions have gone up. So yeah, this is a guy who could be a steal for both standard and PPR if you're looking again in the 3rd round, or if you can get him in the 4th, because he's a guy that people are not going to be high on. People who do not follow the offseason as closely as you are, the listeners, of course, listening to this show right now, you're a step ahead. People are going to be like, oh, it's Isaiah Crowell. That's like a 6th, maybe 7th round running back. Well, they're going to be sorely sad when they're going to laugh at you when you take him in the 3rd, 4th round, and maybe depending on your league, that's a key factor to drafting. We're going to be talking about draft strategies in future shows. Yeah. If you know that people are going to be really low on someone like Isaiah Crowell, you can wait an extra round or 2. You could be getting a steal that people are still going to laugh at you for, and then he should return on value, and you'll be able to laugh in all of their faces. So I agree. I do really like Isaiah Crowell. We got him for a good value and something to definitely watch. He's definitely not getting the respect as of yet. We'll see if that rises as we get closer to the main season. But as of right now, I mean, hey, I'll take the sleeper value for sure. One thing that I want to talk about, which if you listen to the show, we all had a wow moment when it happened. How about Keenan Allen? Keenan Allen in the 1st round. Guys, talk to me about Keenan Allen.
Don't do it.
I love my boy Keenan Allen, but 1st round? Come on, man.
No.
Come on, player. What are you doing? What are y'all doing out here? Listen, man, that offense is loaded. it's gonna. I see Keenan Allen having a good year, but man, not that good of a year. But you have to go in the first round and get him.
I mean, I get it. 2015, where he was on that, just historic pace through the first 8 games, which he got hurt about halfway through that game. It was against my Ravens. That's why I remember it. He made a spectacular catch for a touchdown in the back of the end zone, and he never really came back. 67 receptions and 4 touchdowns in 8 games. That put him on 134 reception and 8 touchdown pace for the season. That is great value. I don't think it's first round value. Yes, it's a PPR league, so that's probably why you saw the bump. But holy crap. That no matter how you look at it, that is a reach. What do you guys think a good round for Keenan Allen is right now? Because he's currently going on average in the 3rd round as the 14th wide receiver off the board. Of course, this is PPR still. He's going as the 5th pick in the 3rd round. Yet in our mock, he went as the 12th pick in the 1st round. So obviously that was an anomaly. So do you guys I would think that the 3rd round is interesting, but the one thing we have to take into account here as well is that he did that in 2015 before they added all these other weapons to this offense, and obviously Melvin Gordon taking that next step as now he is also catching passes as well. So do you guys think that even the 3rd round, do you think that's good value for him? Do you think that's too early? Do you think that's too late? Where do you guys valuing Keenan Allen? I know we got into this a bit during our rankings, but what are your thoughts on Keenan here?
I mean, I love the dude too. I would, for me, if it's not the 4th round, I really can't take him. So it's, to me, I think fourth round or lower, 4th, 5th round, yeah. But the 3rd, I can't do the 3rd.
See, for me,
yeah, I'm even.
Go ahead.
I'm even lower on him. What?
I don't know. I was just saying, go ahead. I was just going to say, for me, Keenan Allen, because of the injury risk, I currently have him as a mid to low end wide receiver 2. I mean, he's got all the upside in the world to finish as a wide receiver 1. There's just so many weapons there. Though, who knows? We talk about Mike Williams being injured already. Maybe that's a big red zone target, and just target in general out of the offense. Maybe more targets go back to Keenan. He has to stay healthy, though. That's the thing. So sorry, what were you going to say, Jason?
I was going to say I'm even lower on Keenan Allen than you guys are. It's too many injuries. I mean, literally, he has played less and less games every year of his career. 15, then 14, then 8, then 1. You know, and yeah, when he plays, he's super productive. But same thing as Gronkowski. He's got to be on the field in order to do those kinds of things, and he can't seem to do that. I don't know what's going on out there with the Chargers. I don't know if they hit him with kendo sticks or when they come out of the locker room just to beef him up or something. But lots of injuries for these receivers. I would take him probably in the 6th or 7th round, which means he probably won't be on any of my teams.
It's a safe bet he will not be on your teams if he's going in the 3rd on average. But I mean, hey, let that be someone else's problem then. If you're not a believer, don't buy in. That's one of the things. That's a question we get all the time. When do you draft like players that you don't like or players that you hate? When is the value too good to return on? And commonly, I just tell people, there's a point where everybody returns on value, but if there's really, to me, and this is something I've had to suffer through in the past, nothing sucks worse than losing with players that you hate. You want to enjoy fantasy football, and if Keenan Allen's going to suck, and then when he eventually gets hurt, if this happens, and then you're like, I knew it, that's the extra kick in the nuts that nobody wants. So, to each their own.
You know what? You might be wrong. Like CJ and I are banging the table for OJ Howard, and we've gotten some comments about that, and we might be wrong. We could very well be wrong about OJ Howard, but you know what? We like the player. We like what we see. And so we rank him out. And when you look at my rankings, Keenan Allen, I have him ranked as the 30th overall wide receiver. So I got 29 other guys that are wide receivers that I have ranked above him. Now, when you hear the people talking about him and saying, oh, he's great, look how awesome he is, and when he played this and that and the other thing, I'm going to look at my rankings and I'm going to trust my board, and I'm going to go with who I go with. Now, if I get to the 7th round and miraculously Keenan Allen is still there, and all my other guys that are ahead of him are off the board, yeah, I'll take him. That's what I'm talking about.
How many games do you guys have him playing this year?
Yeah, I'll be optimistic for him, just because of all this, and I'll say optimistically 9 games. That's more games than he's played in the last 2 seasons combined.
I have him down for playing 10 games this year, so I'm right in that ballpark as well. 10 games.
Yeah.
CJ, have you statted him out yet?
I'm gonna be optimistic to say he goes 16.
Ha!
You know what I'm saying?
Something he's
Oh,
never done
I-
in his career.
I
All right.
believe that the move to
I don't think that's
LA is
optimism.
gonna do something to his body, man.
Yes,
He's gonna
that
be good.
magical property of moving from San Diego to
Yeah,
Los
it is.
Angeles.
I think it's that water in San Diego. That's why he's been hurt so much.
Easily the least scientifical thing we've heard all day. CJ, give us one of your takeaways from this draft.
My takeaway. All right, I'm back on it. So listen, now with the recent things that's happened and transpired in the NFL, man, and with the release of Eric Decker with the Jets, I think it's interesting that Eric Decker being with the Jets, he was taken in the 10th, and then Quincy Newell was taken in the 12th. I think now if Eric Decker, if he gets signed, he goes to Baltimore. I think that ups his take, and that's going to be very interesting. Another play that you can be able to do for a wide receiver too. He's going to get productive. We talked about it earlier, man. That he plays better with systems where he's not the focal point of the offense. He's a great addition. He's a great number 2 or 1A, 1A and 1B there, and I think that's going to be good. And then on Quincy Newell, now with Eric Decker being gone. I was not a believer in this Jets offense and want no parts of it, but now you got him as basically the focal point of this offense when it comes to wide receivers. He's going to get the majority of the receptions. So if you want a late round flyer guy that you want to take a shot on that that's going to get points, Quincy Newell is a guy that I look and see in this draft, and I'm like, you know what, I might have to rearrange my stats as far as my rankings of Quincy Newell because the potential and the option of him being able to get those targets, they've gone up since this Eric Decker release.
Well, to me, the interesting thing is it's a similar scenario as Steve Smith last year. Steve Smith coming off injury, like Eric Decker. Eric Decker's had 2 surgeries since he obviously went down. One was a rotator cuff, one was a hip surgery. So if he comes back healthy, like Steve Smith coming back from his Achilles injury last year, he was being taken as Baltimore's possession receiver in the 11th round as the 52nd wide receiver off the board. So, I mean, do you think Eric Decker comes back in that value? Do you think people go for the name? Because I would say Steve Smith had a bigger name than Eric Decker. I mean, would you be ecstatic to get him there? Do you think he rises higher than that? Where do you think he ends up going if he does sign with Baltimore in drafts?
If he goes to Baltimore, I can see him maybe 2 rounds ahead. I can see him going in the 8th round. And if I can get him in the 8th round, I'll be excited about that.
Could be a good return on value. I mean, one of the highest passing volumes in the league the last 2 years. Jason, what's your take here?
No, I think CJ makes a fantastic point. I mean, with Decker moving on, that means Nunwa has to step up. And he is one of those guys that we've kind of, as a show, we've been kind of high on and we've looked at in later rounds and been interested to see what he's going to do. And this is technically his 4th year he's going into, but actually it's his 3rd because he didn't really play in 2014. So again, magical 3rd year type of a situation for him. And he's in a good opportunity other than the quarterback play. He's in a really good has a really good opportunity to actually step forward and be a very big part of that offense. So I like Quincy Newell for sure. Eric Decker going to Baltimore, like you said, I think this will give you guys a dimension that you've been lacking, and I definitely think you would use the crap out of this guy. So I agree with CJ. If that happens, I think I'd raise him up my board a bit, maybe 1 or 2 rounds.
I don't think it's something Baltimore has been lacking. I think it's something we're currently lacking. He'd fill that Steve Smith role before him, Anquan Bolden before him, Derek Mason role, that possession guy. But no, I get your point. Quincy Newell, though, going currently as a late 13th round pick. So I mean, on volume alone, this is why it's one of those things where it's a PPR league, so volume is gold. So I think that would be worth a steal. So it's something to monitor. Obviously, Eric Decker's landing spot is going to be a big determining factor on where he goes, average draft position-wise, and therefore where you need to be targeting him in your drafts, if at all, because some people are going to be scared off by the fact he was injured. Some people may be scared off with his landing spot, whatever the case may be. But as of right now, as a Jet, he was going in the 8th round, and I think that's probably where he'll end up going because with the uncertainty in a new offense, unless he ends up going somewhere like it's a top-tier offense, and then, who knows, blow the roof off. But something worth monitoring. But as of right now, I mean, obviously June 9th, we have no idea because he hasn't signed yet. So let's go ahead and move on. I guess that means I'm up next. One thing that stood out to me was that this was a PPR draft.
Actually, I'm pretty sure that I was next.
Didn't you go after I did?
No, you made me go first,
Nope.
and then.
Okay, well then, by all means, go ahead, my friend.
One of the biggest reaches, in my opinion, in the draft was Cam Newton went as the 6th quarterback off the board in the 6th round. I understand the thought process. I mean, former MVP, talented, that's all good. But I am very concerned about Cam Newton because of the year he had, and the fact that they are trying to pigeonhole him into being a pocket passer. I don't see that happening. I think he's going to struggle with that position. The only ray of sunshine that you kind of see here is the addition of Christian McCaffrey, which is going to give him a new element to kind of play with. But the fact that they lost Ted Ginn Jr., I don't see Cam Newton stepping up and being one of the top quarterbacks this year. I got him statted as being much, much lower. So I was kind of shocked to see him go as early as he did.
Yeah, that's one of those things. I completely agree, and I have Cam Newton down pretty low as well. A lot of that's the way they're trying to make him play. Some of it's the offense. I mean, he lost Ted Ginn Jr. this offseason, and we're hearing all these reports about how Kelvin Benjamin's coming in, running around out there looking like he's an offensive lineman or a fullback instead of a wide receiver. So that's not good. Not to fat shame anybody. That's just what we're hearing and seeing. If you Google his photos, he is sizable. And you're a professional athlete. You got to take care of yourself. So that's a lack of discipline. A lot of that has me really down on him. But he went as the 6th quarterback off the board. He's currently on average going as the 6th quarterback off the board, as the 7th, I should say, in PPR. He's going as the 7th. I don't know why PPR matters, but apparently it changes here. He's going as the 12th pick in the 6th round, almost a 7th round pick. So that's actually return on value for him, or where he's going as far as average draft position, I should say. So that's just way too high for me. People can have him. I will not be drafting Cam Newton in the 6th, 7th round. I mean, I don't draft quarterbacks that early anyway, but if I was drafting with the mentality of your normal strategic, fantasy player, the way most people play, that's not worth it to me. It's not at all. You can have him. Enjoy. His magical season, I think, is what people are still very much riding high on, and they're just thinking last year was a down year. I believe the real Cam Newton is somewhere in the middle. I'm not drafting him as the 6th, 7th quarterback off the board. CJ, I believe you're probably the highest on him, if I remember correctly. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, I'm the highest, and I believe Cam Newton's going to bounce back. I think the additions that they brought there are going to be good for him, especially Christian McCaffrey. It frees him up where he doesn't have to go back, and it's one of his greatest plays, be able to run with the ball and be as dominant as it has been in the league. But for his longevity in the NFL, he does need to make an adjustment when it comes to that. I don't see him, going back, tailing back when it comes to running, but to be able to put his body at risk, I do think he's going to, do better when it comes to that. And Christian McCaffrey is definitely going to help. Now, you guys made a good point about the other receivers that are there. They do need to step up. Kelvin Benjamin, that's just unacceptable what he's been doing there. But I think, one of the big targets for Cam Newton is Big Red Olsen. So, that's a guy that you're still going to look at, and he should continue to be productive. So I everything with being said and what I've seen, I still think Cam Newton can be able to have a good bounce back year this year. And, if it was the 6th round, depending on what my team was looking like, if I see him there, I wouldn't have a problem picking up Cam Newton there.
Funny, because you actually do have him at 6. I forgot about that. It's part of the consensus
Damn,
rankings.
Look at that.
There you go.
You have him at 6. And then, this is going back to our quarterback ranking show. I'm at 18, which it sounds low, but I'm actually completely comfortable with it, looking who's around him. And Jason, you're at 20, so we're much closer there.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just one of those things. He had that magical year. He usually, he threw for almost 4,000 yards. He's only thrown for 4,000 yards once in his career. That was in 2011. And the big thing that really stood out was the 35 touchdowns, where his previous career high was 24. In fact, most years he doesn't even get to 20. So that's a big factor right there. Of course, he makes up for that with rushing touchdowns, and he's averaging about 5 or 6 a year. So, maybe a little bit there, but that doesn't put him in the same conversation with people around that top 5, top 6 area where you've got 4,000 plus yard passers and guys who are constantly throwing 25, 30, if not higher than 30 touchdowns per season. So that's just why I'm not high on Cam Newton. But if you want to know our really in-depth takes on that, go back, listen to our quarterback show. We have to move on. We're almost out of time. So let's rapid fire this last round for all of us. Mine was that even though this was a PPR, there was still an even number of running backs and wide receivers off the board. And this shows that position scarcity, just because of the draft format, does not mean you have to abandon positions, because you always hear people talk about, well, it's a PPR draft, you got to get the wide receivers. Well, you don't, because the pass-catching running backs are even more scarce. So I don't let the fact that it's a PPR draft really sway my opinion, especially in the early rounds. I mean, look, we were number 2, so we got one of the 2 top-tier pass-catching running backs. David Johnson went first. We got Le'Veon Bell, who was actually on a pace on a per-game basis with more receptions than David Johnson had. So, obviously, David Johnson, Le'Veon Bell, Ezekiel Elliott, we're expecting him to get an uptick in passes, but, position scarcity, those are your top 3, still the way it was in PPR. LaShawn McCoy catches passes, Devontae Freeman catches passes, Melvin Gordon catches passes, and we're expecting that to increase yet again this year. So, not surprising. The main surprise in the entire first round from standard to PPR was, again, Keenan Allen, for whatever reason, in the first. Beyond that, it was pretty typical between standard and PPR, except for that we saw, I think, more wide receivers go before we saw a couple running backs towards the end of the round. So that was just something that stood out to me, and something I want to really voice, because just because it's PPR does not mean you have to go 0 RB, because you don't, because you still need to fill that running back slot. So don't shy away and get crap running backs, because you've got to start those guys. Who wants to go next?
Well, mine is, we took Frank Gore in the 9th, and I got to be honest, that's the one blemish on our team that I really did not like. I look at other people. Yeah, I'm sorry, but I look at other talent that we took, that was taken in the 9th round. You got Mike Gillislee there, you could take a shot. Kareem Hunt there, I know we was talking about, and then Deshaun Jackson. Those are other names I would have really liked to take at that spot versus Frank Gore, and that's just me. That's just one blemish I see on our team. I was like, man.
But again, this is a guy who's been a running back 1 each of the last, I don't even remember how many seasons, and he catches about 35 to 40 passes a year in that offense, and he got 4 receiving touchdowns last year. So, in this format, it's not a bad pick. Though I get what you're saying. The upside of those other positions where we're expecting Frank Gore to kind of tailor off, it's bound to happen sooner or later. He's 34 years old, but hasn't happened yet. This could be the year, but he catches a number of balls every single year. So just pointing that out there. Jason, what about you? Let's wrap this up.
Yeah, I think the steal of the draft, in my opinion, was Doug Martin in the top of the 8th round.
Oh yeah,
we're talking about PPR. This guy catches a lot of passes for a running back. And he is, when he's healthy and when he's playing, he's easily a running back 1. So the fact that he went all the way in the top of the 8th round, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, especially because his average draft position right now in PPR drafts is in the 5th round. So he fell.
He dropped like a rock. What in the world?
I got to tell you, 5th round might be too high for me. And, again, he's going to miss some time. We're not sure how that offense is going to play out when he comes back, what could happen in that time frame. 8th round is amazing value for Doug Martin. I wish that's where he was going, but I honestly expect Doug Martin's ADP to climb even from here. So I don't know if Doug Martin's going to be on many of my teams this year, though I'm not a huge Doug Martin fan anyway, because he's very inconsistent. But that was definitely the steal of the draft. That's a 3-round later return on value. So I definitely like that pick of Doug Martin for the team who got him. Obviously, that was not us. So, all right. Well, that's going to do it for us today. Please make sure you guys tune in on Tuesday, where we will be back with a new show. Remember, Patreon is live. The website is live. Just search for The Fantasy Football Fanatics. It's thefantasyfootballfanatics.com. You can find us through that on Facebook or Twitter or iTunes or Stitcher, wherever the case may be. And just keep coming back. Again, every Tuesday and Friday. We're going to be here all year long. We're an independent podcast. Please don't forget to give us a rating and a review, especially if you want to join the Listener League. That's how you get in. And we've gotten some questions about this. The Listener League is exactly that. If you want to play fantasy football with/against all of us, All you have to do, submit, and you have a chance to earn a spot in a league to play against us this coming season. And as always, like I said, give us a follow on Twitter at the FF Fanatics, or you can follow us individually. I am at GPalmerFFF, CJ at CJ Hickman89, Jason is at Jason Cabrera 13, and make sure you guys tune in for our post show found exclusively on YouTube at youtube.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics. Usually a lot of fun, off-topic conversation, get to know us a little bit better, and we just kind of nerd out. It's a lot of times we're talking about movies and video games and TV shows and stuff like that. But sometimes it's football related as well. So check that out. Any parting thoughts before we sign off, guys?
And just appreciate the love. YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, everybody that's coming in, messengers, man. We appreciate the love. Keep it up.
You can tell we're getting closer to football season because the numbers are just climbing every single day.
I like that.
So it's good. I mean, it's funny because YouTube is the only place people can see the views, and that is so mathematically 1% of our viewership. It's insane. So all right, we are out of here, everyone. Take care. We'll see you on the post show. If not, we will see you on Tuesday. Take care. Bye.
Life in